I didn't shoot him in the head. I didn't shoot him. I was in somebody's house. You make a mess. I shot him a couple of times. I didn't torture the kid. I didn't do anything like that. I shot him a couple of times. The kid died.
Well, what's a couple?
More than a couple. It's a couple. Really, I don't know the exact amount. Maybe I shot him 10 times, 12 times.
Maybe 15 even.
It could have been 15. I wanted to beat him with the gun after it was empty.
The good old 80s. If the 70s were known for disco and flares, the 80s were known for one thing only: people getting whacked. Every other week you'd hear of this guy getting found in a trunk, or that guy disappearing. Murder became a currency. The more people you hit, the more people feared you, and the more guys feared you, the less likely they were to fuck around with you.
Angelo Ruggiero was a chain-smoking wise guy who was part of the Gambino crime family in New York. He belonged to the Bergen crew and was the nephew of Neil Della Croce, a powerful mobster who was second in command of the family.
Now the story goes that someone accused Angelo of being a rat. The source came from arguably one of the most dangerous guys in the street. He was an out-and-out psycho killer. He'd kill you for looking at him the wrong way. His name was Anthony Casso, but everyone called him Gaspipe. Not to his face, though. He hated that fucking name. Look at this house. Casso got a guy to design and build it. When he gave him the bill, Gaspipe paid him with a .22 slug to the head, and that was after he had the guy tortured. That's how fucked up this guy was.
Anthony Casso was far from an ordinary mobster. He was a predator, a killer of killers. After years in the mob, he rose through the ranks of the Lucchese family. Tony Dux Corallo, the boss of the family, had just been sentenced to life in the commission case and named Casso underboss. Though offered the top position of boss, Casso declined, nominating his longtime friend and ally, Vicar Musso, as boss. As Casso reveled in expanding his power in the city, dark forces were already conspiring against him, setting the stage for an all-out war on the streets of New York.
There was no proof to back up the claim that Angelo was a rat, and the issue petered out. It died on the vine. But for Angelo, it was unforgivable, and he wouldn't forget it. On the streets, if you get called a rat, whether you are or you're not, if you don't do anything about it, you probably are a fucking rat.
December 16th, 1985. The boss of the Gambino family, Big Paul Castellano, is murdered in Midtown Manhattan. The brazen act is carried out by John Gotti from the Bergen crew. Angelo Ruggiero's status in the underworld has just gone up. He's now allied with the most powerful gangster in New York. Riding high as Gotti's right-hand man, Ruggiero hasn't forgotten Casso's accusations against him years earlier and begins plotting his elimination. Angelo and a made guy called Micky Boy Paradiso were partners in a drug operation. There was a disagreement between them and Casso. Dealing in drugs was not permitted in the mob, so the matter couldn't be resolved in an official sit-down. Angelo used the rat accusation for justification for wanting Casso dead. Deep down, Gotti also knew that if the commission was going to go after him, they'd use a heavy hitter like Casso. Gotti gave Angelo the nod on murdering Casso, and the wheels were set in motion. The hit was given to Micky Boy.
Micky Boy Paradiso was as tough as they come. Micky didn't mince words. He'd tell you exactly how he felt. He didn't give a fuck about anything and feared nobody. The guy even punched John Gotti in the face before they were made guys. He was no joke. It takes a killer to take a killer out. Micky had a tough crew of young guys. One of these was a guy called Jimmy Hydell. Hydell was a crazy young hood, wanting to make a name for himself. He even killed his girlfriend because she cheated on him. That's how fucked up he was.
On a clear day in Brooklyn, Casso drove to get ice cream for his wife, Lillian. As he parked his car, another vehicle carrying 4 armed men pulled up beside him. Spotting the shadow of a double-aught buckshot-loaded shotgun, Casso quickly ducked. A barrage of bullets tore through his car. Outgunned, he reached for his weapon. Luck was on Casso's side. In that moment, the hit team couldn't exit their vehicle to finish the job as their car was too close to Casso's, trapping them inside. The precious seconds allowed Casso to escape, sprinting toward a nearby restaurant as they fired recklessly behind him. He managed to hide in the freezer, but not unscathed. He had been shot several times and was bleeding heavily. Known for his toughness and resilience, Casso's survival only strengthened his reputation in the underworld.
He knew the cops would be around soon, and he didn't want to have to talk to them. It didn't take them long to show up. Once they left, he made his exit. All this whilst blood was pissing out of him. He called up Vic Amuso, who came and picked him up. He was fuming and ready to tear the whole city apart to find out who had the balls to come after him. Jimmy Hydell's days were numbered. You can't fuck up a hit on someone like Gaspipe and think they're going to forget about it. Hydell and the rest of the hit team were fucked.
Louie Epolito and Stephen Carraappa were NYPD detectives who infamously betrayed their badges by moonlighting as hitmen for Casso. Dubbed the Mafia cops, they provided insider information, carried out murders, and helped Casso evade law enforcement, becoming 2 of the most corrupt officers in NYPD history. Once Casso found out the names of the hit team, he dispatched the Mafia cops. They went to Hydell's house and arrested him. They put him in the back of their car. Instead of going to the precinct, they took Hydell to a safe house. That's when the penny dropped for Hydell. He knew that it was time to pay the piper for the failed hit. Casso promptly tied Hydell up and began the interrogation. Knowing the game was up and hoping for a quick death, Hydell confessed that he did the hit for Micky Boy Paradiso and that Angelo Ruggiero ordered it. According to ex-Gambino underboss Sammy the Bull Gravano, Casso summoned 3 captains in the Gambino family, Joe Piney, Joe Butch, and Jimmy Brown Fiala. When the 3 captains arrived, Casso told Hydell to tell them what he told him. Hydell then repeated the confession. After he was done, Casso replied, "I want Ruggiero." The 3 captains said they'd take the message back to John Gotti. After they left, Jimmy Hydell was tortured to death. Before Casso finished off Hydell, Hydell asked Casso if he could leave his body where it would be found, so his mother could collect the life insurance money. Casso promised he would. The 3 Gambino captains immediately made their way to Gotti's headquarters and told him the story. Sammy the Bull Gravano berated the captains for not bringing Hydell with them. John Gotti dispatched Sammy the Bull and Gene Gotti to go see Micky Boy Paradiso and tell him to go on the lam. They immediately left for Micky Boy's house. When they got there, Micky Boy greeted them. Sammy told him, "They know that it was us behind the hit. Gaspipe has Hydell and he's probably dead by now. You need to go on the lam." Micky Boy told them he was ready for them and lifted his shirt, revealing a .38 snub-nose revolver. Sammy was surprised that Paradiso greeted them whilst carrying a weapon. Sammy angrily told Paradiso, "We're here to save your life." When word got back to John Gotti about Paradiso having a gun on him when Sammy and Gene showed up, Gotti put out a contract on Micky Boy's head. Gotti sent word to Casso that he had his blessing to kill anybody involved in the attempted hit. He did, however, defend Angelo and said he had nothing to do with it. Luckily for Micky Boy, he was arrested on an unrelated matter before the contract was carried out. Meanwhile, the jungle drums of the streets were beating, and they were calling Nicky Guido and Robert Baring. Along with Hydell, they were part of the hit team that went after Casso. Once again, Casso used his secret weapon, corrupt detectives Louie Epolito and Stephen Carraappa, to find out the whereabouts of Nicky Guido. It may have been sloppy or downright audacious, but Stephen Carraappa ran the name of Nicky Guido through the police computer and found an address. It was something that Carraappa would come to regret years later. Casso dispatched 2 elite killers for the job. They had a fearsome reputation across the streets of Brooklyn. They were the Gemini twins, Anthony Center and Joey Testa.
The Gemini twins were scary. They used to work for Roy DeMeo, who needs no introduction. Long story short, he was a serial killer for the Gambinos. Him and his crew would lure people to their hangout, the Gemini Lounge, and they'd be shot and then dismembered. God only knows how many people they made disappear. So Casso sends the twins out to kill Guido, and they do the job. The only problem, though, is that it's the wrong Nicky Guido. Carraappa fucked up and got the address of a civilian with the same name. The news reported that a Nicky Guido had been shot dead. The other guy on the Casso hit team, Robert Baring, heard the news, but it didn't show a picture of the victim. He assumed that his Nicky Guido was dead. He shit himself and decided to cooperate. He was sentenced to 15 years to life and died of a heart attack in prison.
Casso had his men try to take out the hierarchy of the Gambino family, going after Sammy the Bull and John Gotti. Their attempts failed. Both men had FBI surveillance all around them, and any attempt on their lives would have been too risky. Casso went after another Gambino hitter, Eddie Lino. Lino was driving his Mercedes on the Belt Parkway in Brooklyn when Epolito and Carraappa, posing as police officers, pulled him over in a staged traffic stop. Once Lino stopped, they approached his car and shot him multiple times, killing him instantly.
The noose was tightening around the Gambinos, whether it was luck or just fate. Gotti, Sammy the Bull, and Frank Locascio got pinched on December 11th, 1990. Not long after, there was a warrant for Casso's arrest. He got word from his connections in law enforcement and went on the lam, leaving little Al DiArco as acting boss. Casso managed to lam it for 2 years, staying at an ex-girlfriend's house in New Jersey until the FBI finally caught up with him. Facing life behind bars, the infamous Gaspipe decided to flip. He turned over a lifetime's worth of criminal activity, not to mention 36 murders, including Jimmy Hydell. But the most shocking information that Casso gave up was the 2 detectives he had on the payroll, Louie Epolito and Stephen Carraappa. I mean, the feds weren't expecting that one. The whole thing about the mob cops went nowhere at first. Casso's story wasn't enough to nail him, until Louie Epolito, like an idiot, shows up on Sally Jesse Raphael. That's when Jimmy Hydell's mother recognized him as the cop who came to take her son the day he vanished. That's when it all started unraveling. Casso screwed himself in the end. The feds turned their backs on him after he got caught telling lies. But the real kicker, he couldn't keep his mouth shut about Sammy the Bull, the FBI's golden boy in the Gotti case. They didn't want to mess up that deal, so they tore up Casso's agreement and put him away for life without parole. Just like that, he was finished. He had a rep, see? A real tough guy, one you didn't want to cross. But the paranoia, that ate him up from the inside. He started whacking out his own guys one by one. That kind of heat doesn't go unnoticed, not by the feds. Once they caught up with him, what does he do? He folds, starts singing like a canary, rats out his own, and still ends up doing hard time. Funny thing is, he thought he was playing the game, but the game played him. In the end, nobody walks away clean. One way or another, everybody pays.